Today we'll be doing a forecast on Bitcoin for the end of the year. Let's go ahead and let's just run our Python program and see what we can get from that. Here we are. We'll bring up Python now. There's Python. It's just starting to populate. So we're going to be asking it some questions and we're going to be running some programs. So let's first of all, let's go open our program to our recent files. Module 35, our intellectual explainable forecasting intelligence. So let's just take this program. I'm going to save it just so that I don't lose it. And we're going to now run our module. So now it's starting to run. It's going to take a couple of seconds or 10 to 20 seconds to load and run the program, and then it'll be asking us for some ticker symbols or something to run a forecast against. So something should be coming up here really quick here. It's sure taking its time. Here we go. So the launcher has run and now it is asking us for examples, and we're going to run Bitcoin USD. So let's just go ahead and let's do that. Okay, so we're going to enter that's our market. Now it's asking us, what year would you like to forecast? Well, let's just say 2026. We want to know what's going on with Bitcoin. Here we go. So this is now going to load and prepare our data, and it's telling us in some of this data that is showing up that there's a major turn window here for July, but it looks like August has a real high timing event here. So we should be really careful around the August 16th to the end of August. Let's go have a look at the rest of our program now. Here we go. So now it has brought up our investor demo, and this is explaining about Bitcoin. It's telling us that there's a primary change in trend around the 18th of July, which we know that there's been a change, so it's picked up on that. And it's telling us that the base case for right now is about 64. Year end could see 62, and this is our historical estimate. It's based upon the 38% annualized volatility. We have 30,000 simulated paths of statistical price scenarios that we run through. Let's go take a look at the month-to-month, January to December, and let's take a look at what Bitcoin is going to do. So here are the months. Here's the actual status. If it's a forecast, which is August now is turning into actual and forecast, and September and October haven't happened, so it's obviously a forecast. We have an expected phase, so major turns or reversals or whatnot. So it signals to us that this month is calling for also a possible major turn and reversal risk. And we have the high evidence and the low evidence for something like that to take place. It also states that in August we could see a low of 57, a median of 62, and an upper level around the 68 and hovering under 70K. September is 54,000 for a low, the median is 62, and the high end for that month could be as high as 71,000. Moving on to October, again, it's calling for a 53,000 and a 62 median and 73 high. And November, our target, November and December are more or less our target scenario months, October, November, and December, as I've stated many times before. So October is stated 53 to 73, and November is now 51,000 to 74,000, and the end of the year with a 50,000 up to 76,000. So this is giving us the probabilities based upon the historical data that it was chewing through. So it's telling us in here we have a high side evidence of about a 68 and a low side percentage level of about 70%. And the base price is around the 64, and currently we're around 63,100. And it shows us the strongest cycle contributors here, the different cycles here, and they were a low and a high and how heavily they're weighted, as well as our strongest historical anchors, which ran back into 2025, and we see potential highs, potential lows, and it's given us the amount of signals. So for the price scenario, so let's just talk about the low for the year end is 50,000 on this model here for our Python private predictive technology, and it's calling for a median around 62. We've been sitting around that for a while, and a year end upper end scenario for 76,000. So this price engine begins with the latest available closes at 63, and this is on the August 2nd time frame, and it estimates a historical annualized drift of 4% and an annualized volatility of 38%. It then produced 3,000 simulated paths using resampled historical return residuals and monthly timing bias adjustments. The lower and upper scenarios represent the 20th and 80th percentiles. The base case is the median path. These values are statistical scenarios and not guaranteed targets. So I thought I would just give you a quick snapshot of what this tool is capable of producing and finding for us when we put it up against its historical averages of information. I hope you really enjoyed this production of Bitcoin. Let's go take a look at the chart really quick here. And so for our base case, it's calling for a 50,000, which, it seems pretty logical and sensible in the fact that we have an upper and a lower drifting set of lines here from our low and our top here in the last year. And you can see that I've coupled these trend lines together, and that the two of them are exactly parallel, and that the asset has been maintaining its movement path inside of these two coordinated trend lines. And with the outlook of that, this Python predictive technology is calling for a 50,000, which I think is a very, very, very conservative output. However, I still feel that we could potentially move down into the 30s, and we've talked about this on the square of 9, that a potential turn would be around that, around the mid-30s and whatnot. We've also had some timing events where it's provided timing dates for the end of September and runs out to about December in this historical forecast for the 12, 13, and 14 month lows that we typically have in Bitcoin. So looking at the probability, it sure seems as though Bitcoin has a little bit more to come down before we start to see another stabilization of Bitcoin. And will we be making it down to these low 30s? Well, it's possible and likely. However, our first target is to get below this 50 level, and once we once we do that, then the bottom opens up for a further drift. Now, our Python program did not provide us with that output here for the low 30s here on this. This is my guess right now, but it's calling for around the 50 level, which is, again, like I said, very conservative in my mind. And looking at the drawdowns from Bitcoin, we were looking at drawdowns of 93%, 80%, and 78%. So I had expected this year that we would see something close to maybe a 72%, given the fact that if that were to be the case, we would see about a 35, 36, and 37 Bitcoin. And being that the last 4 or 3 bear campaigns, the residual has diminished about 6% on each cycle. So I expect that from 78%, another 6% drawdown from the last pull down would be about 72%, because we minus 6 from 78 and we end up at 72. So this gives us a area where we could look for a bottom as well. So I wanted to show you that, just looking at this module, and we're going to go take a look as well at another module. Let's maybe take a look at a stock let's go take a look at Tesla. I'll do a quick one on what I think Tesla will do this year, and we'll maybe go take a look at some other ones. All right, peace and love, guys. Hit me up in the comments if you enjoyed this and our programming. I've been working on this Python program for about just under 3 years, so about one movement through the sign of the zodiac by Saturn, which is about 2.5 years. And Saturn represents regulations and rules, courts, and things like that. So right now it's moved into the 14th degree of Aries and is sitting at a 60-degree angle from Pluto, and it's also in a configuration with Uranus. Uranus is 120 degrees from Pluto and 60 degrees from Neptune. So I just wanted to point that out, that I said earlier that Saturn was in that. It's actually Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. They have a 60 and 120 degree. Plus we also have the opposition right now, a real heavy opposition between Pluto and Jupiter, which happens once every 6 years. It comes around and makes an opposition or makes a conjunction. So right now, Jupiter is in an opposition with Pluto. And the last time that Pluto was conjunct Jupiter was March 2020, when we had a low at 38,000. And this November here, this period here, I am seeing that Mars will be conjunct Jupiter in the sign of Leo, and I feel very strongly that a low will be there, because back in 2020 Mars and Jupiter were conjunct Pluto. So I expect some type of major volatility for the end of this year, and I expect stocks to make a bit of a low here and then pick up, and at the end of the year, stocks like the S&P 500, they're going to be making tops for the year in November, especially December. But Bitcoin will be doing the opposite. It'll have an opposite correlation. It'll be making a low sometime in October, November, and December. and it could come as soon as September. It doesn't have to start in October. It could certainly come a little bit earlier. However, the cycles are running out, and we're looking to see the outcome that we've been portraying here for the last year. We've been talking about how we've been in a bear market, and or the better part of the year. And of course, it's never a popular discussion. Bear markets don't really impress people much. However, it does impress me. We do need a yin and a yang, a light and dark. We need the opposite. So from the top, which we called out by the end of this year, we called this area that there would be a topping pattern in there, and I sent out a worksheet showing why I felt the October, November, and December period would produce the end of the year results. Okay, so I went on a little bit there. Let's go take a look at another stock, and we'll just keep moving forward. Let's go take a look at Tesla next. Anyways, peace and love, guys.